Picture this. You've finally decided to upgrade that cracked screen phone, the one you've been nursing along for way too long. You hit Add to Cart, maybe even fantasize a little about that shiny new device, and then, almost overnight, the price tag leaps by almost a third. Sound like a bad dream? Well, it just happened. The newest round of Trump-era tariffs, the ones many of us barely heard about, quietly went live this spring. And let me tell you, the sticker shock isn't just a rumor. It's already hitting the tech we rely on, the gadgets we literally touch every single day. If you've been scratching your head, wondering why your dream laptop on that wish list suddenly feels less like an upgrade and more like a second mortgage down payment, then you're in the right place. Stick with me, because we're about to peel back the layers and unpack exactly how these tariffs, these seemingly abstract customs forms, flow straight into your wallet and onto your debit card. So, what is a tariff, really? Let's be real, it sounds like something out of an economics textbook, but it's actually pretty straightforward. Think of it like a bouncer, but instead of a nightclub, this bouncer is standing guard at the U.S. border. Every time a shipment of imported goods, say those sleek new phones, those must-have tablets, or even just the copper wiring that makes them work, tries to walk into the American club, Uncle Sam is there, demanding a bigger cover charge. This isn't a flat fee. It's typically measured as a percentage of the item's declared value. And here's the crucial bit. That charge? It's paid by the American company that ordered the goods, not by some factory overseas. So, when you hear the catchy phrase, China pays the tariffs, understand that's not how the actual wiring of the global economy works. It's the U.S. importer who cuts that check to customs, and you can bet your bottom dollar they then build that extra cost directly into the price you eventually see on the shelf. Simple to understand? Absolutely. Painful for your budget? Also, absolutely. Now let's talk about the numbers, because this is where it really starts to sting. According to the latest trade filings, the effective tariff rates on Chinese electronics, products that already faced some duties, mind you, are now stacking up to a staggering 145% once you factor in these new layers that kicked in this April. Let that sink in, 145%. What does that actually mean for your next purchase? Well, for a PlayStation that might have once wholesaled for $400, it's now costing the retailer a cool $600 before it even leaves the dock and hits a store shelf. Analysts at the Consumer Tech Association have been crunching the pass-through math. And here's what's already baked into the prices you're seeing, or are about to see. Smartphones are projected to jump by 31%, monitors by 32%, laptops and tablets by a significant 34%, and game consoles? Brace yourself, they're looking at increases up to 69%. No, that is not a typo. If you thought GPU prices were wild during the crypto boom, congratulations. We've just managed to outrun that bubble with a new government policy. These aren't abstract figures. They translate directly into hundreds of dollars out of your pocket for the very same tech you wanted last year. But here's the thing. Prices going up are only half the story, and arguably, not even the most insidious part. When tech costs rise this dramatically, consumers don't just shrug their shoulders and happily pay the extra. That's not how we operate. Instead, we delay purchases, we downgrade to cheaper, less capable models, or we simply drop out of the market entirely. The National Retail Federation's August numbers show overall year-on-year sales still up about 5%, which sounds good on paper. But dig a little deeper, and you'll see categories like furniture and department stores, the ones that truly rely on our discretionary dollars, are already starting to slide. Why? Because households, especially middle-income ones, only have so much slack in their budget. When electronics suddenly demand a larger slice of that pie, something else has to give. That new couch? It'll sit on the showroom floor a little longer. Economists have a name for this phenomenon: purchasing power evaporation. And the aggregate hit? It's a jaw-dropping $123 billion sucked right out of American wallets in the next 12 months alone. That is a colossal sum of real money that would have otherwise gone to supporting local restaurants, buying tickets to concerts, funding summer camps for kids, or simply fueling small businesses. Instead, it's now rerouted quietly and efficiently into the tariff bucket. It's money you won't see, but you'll certainly feel its absence. To truly understand the impact, you have to talk to the folks on the ground. I spoke with the owner of a mid-size laptop assembler in California just last week. Their business model is pretty common. They import bare-bones notebooks from Taiwan, add memory, storage, brand them, and then sell them to students, businesses, you name it. Their landed cost per unit, meaning what they pay to get it here and ready, just shot from $320 to a whopping $435. Think about that margin for a second. If they pass that full hike directly on to their customers, they'll instantly price themselves out of the critical back-to-school market, where every dollar counts. But if they try to eat that cost, their entire margin collapses, and suddenly making payroll gets very, very shaky. So what's their workaround? It's not pretty. They're swapping out the faster solid-state drives for slower, cheaper hard disks. They're shaving $5 off the power supply by using a less robust component. They're praying buyers don't notice the difference in performance or reliability. The end result? You get the same sticker price you saw before, but you're walking away with a demonstrably crummier product. Tariffs, in this scenario, just quietly downgraded your next computer without ever putting it on the label. It's a hidden cost, a silent compromise on quality that consumers are left to discover on their own. Now, supporters of these tariffs will often argue they're a necessary stick, a tough-love approach to reshore manufacturing and bring jobs back home. And it's true, we've seen some headlines about steel furnaces in Ohio and Alabama firing up again, which is certainly positive for those communities. But let's be honest with ourselves. Chips, advanced circuit boards, and especially lithium-ion cells, the very heart of modern tech, require incredibly complex global supply chains that took decades, sometimes generations, to build overseas. You can't just snap your fingers and replicate that. A single new semiconductor fabrication plant, a fab, costs upwards of $20 billion and needs not just a few engineers, but a small army of highly specialized PhDs to even get off the ground, let alone operate it effectively. Even with a 145% tax on imports, building that kind of cutting-edge capacity inside the U.S. in time to avoid these immediate price spikes for consumers is like asking your neighborhood bakery to suddenly grow its own wheat, mill it into flour, and then bake tomorrow's bread. It's theoretically possible, sure, but not on any timeline that's going to spare your wallet today. The intent might be noble, but the practical reality of bringing high-tech manufacturing home is far more challenging and time-consuming than the rhetoric suggests. Let's talk about the long game, because tariffs aren't just a short-term headache. Researchers at the Wharton Budget Model, a highly respected, nonpartisan group, ran the long-term math on this. Their findings are pretty sobering. If this tariff regime stays in place, the U.S. GDP eventually slides by about 6%, wages drop by 5%, and the typical middle-income household could lose approximately $22,000 in lifetime income. Just think about that for a second. $22,000. That's more than double the hit they estimate from an equivalent corporate tax hike, which is often seen as a significant economic drag. This really highlights how incredibly distorting tariffs can be. And here's the kicker. The Wharton model actually assumes no retaliation from other countries. That's a pretty generous assumption, isn't it? Especially when you consider that the EU, China, and Mexico have already teed up or even implemented counter tariffs on American agricultural goods, among other things. So, if you're keeping score, these tariffs are effectively a two-for-one deal we didn't order. They raise prices today, making everything more expensive, and they sap income growth tomorrow, leaving us all with less in our pockets over the long haul. It's a double whammy that could reshape our economic future for years to come. It's easy to focus on tech because it gets all the headlines, but these new duties are far broader, smacking everything from semi-finished copper and auto parts to specialty chemicals. Think about it. Car manufacturers are now paying more for things like wiring harnesses, which means the cost of every new vehicle on the lot inevitably goes up. You might not buy a new iPhone every year, but you might need a new car. And it gets even more complicated. Farmers selling pork or corn overseas are facing retaliatory duties from other nations, and that slams commodity prices right here at home. So, even if you never ever buy a new game console or upgrade your laptop, you're still eating the indirect bill. You'll see it through pricier transportation costs, potentially steeper rents as businesses grapple with higher expenses, and certainly through lower prices for American agricultural exports, impacting rural economies. Tariffs are, in essence, the economic equivalent of a regressive sales tax. One way or another, everybody chips in, whether you realize it or not. The economic web is far more interconnected than we often imagine, and a tug on one strand sends ripples throughout the entire system. Now, let's be fair. Administration talking points often frame these tariffs as crucial leverage to cut the trade deficit, and, more importantly, to shield critical supply chains from geopolitical risk. And that's a fair point, a genuinely important consideration. No one wants to depend on a potential adversary for the semiconductors that run our power grid, our defense systems, or our essential infrastructure. The question, however, isn't about the goal, but the timing and calibration of the policy. Could there be a better way? A more gradual, industry-specific quota, perhaps, paired with robust domestic subsidies for strategic industries, might achieve that reshoring of production without blowing up consumer prices overnight. But slamming a 145% wall on finished goods in one fiscal year, that's the economic version of quitting coffee cold turkey. Admirable in theory, but in practice it's going to give everyone a massive, throbbing migraine. It's a blunt instrument, and while it might achieve some objectives, the collateral damage to consumers and the broader economy is proving to be immense. There's a delicate balance between national security and economic stability, and it seems we've swung hard in one direction with little regard for the other. Okay, so it sounds pretty bleak, right? But you're not powerless. First, if you were on the fence about a big-ticket tech purchase, that new TV, a premium laptop, or even a fancy home appliance, the data strongly suggests you should pull the trigger sooner rather than later. Retailers still have some pre-tariff inventory tucked away in the back room, but once those pallets are gone, the replacement stock carries the new, higher markup. Don't wait until it's too late. Second, consider diving into the world of refurbished or last-gen models. Tariffs hit the declared import value of brand-new goods, so a high-quality used or domestically flipped phone, tablet, or laptop can often skirt some of those hefty levies. You can often find fantastic deals and still get a great product. Third, and perhaps most importantly, voice your view. These tariffs can be rolled back just as fast as they appeared if lawmakers feel enough voter heat. Call your representatives, write emails, engage on social media. It's fiscal agility, citizen style, and it's your right to let your elected officials know how these policies are impacting your family and your budget. Your voice, when combined with others, really does matter. If this breakdown saved you from some serious sticker shock, or even better, helped you sound incredibly smart at work or around the dinner table, do me a quick favor. Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. That way, you'll catch the very next video when policy inevitably moves markets again. Got questions about tariffs or maybe a tariff story of your own, perhaps about how it's impacted your small business or a recent purchase? Drop them in the comments below. I rate every single one. Your insights help us all understand the real-world impact. So, here's the bottom line, the unvarnished truth. Trump's new tariffs aren't just abstract headlines floating around on Bloomberg or some niche economic report. They are a direct, undeniable pipeline from customs warehouses straight into your monthly budget. You should absolutely expect smartphones, laptops, and game consoles to surge by up to a third in price, subtracting a staggering $123 billion in spending power from American families this year alone. And looking further down the road, the long-run bill, according to nonpartisan models, could total a devastating $22,000 in lost lifetime income for the typical middle-class household. While some domestic factories might indeed see a resurgence, they simply won't ramp up fast enough to spare you from today's higher checkout total. Knowledge, unfortunately, won't repeal a tariff overnight, but it sure beats learning the hard way when that eye-watering credit card statement arrives. Now that you know exactly how these gears turn, how these policies truly impact your everyday life, you can make informed decisions. You can time your purchases strategically, tighten your budget where necessary, and most importantly, vote with both your ballot and your wallet. Thanks for watching, for listening, and I'll catch you in the next one, hopefully with some better news.